What do you do if you're the developer of a very violent game and a publisher sends you an email saying, hey, we like your game, but it's a little too violent. You mind toning it down? Well, if you're John from Lost Relic Games, you would do the exact opposite and then make a YouTube video explaining your rationale. And that's exactly what happened here. What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Smash JT. The game Blood and Mead is an indie game. It's a platformer, and it looks to be fairly somewhat ho-hum generic on the surface. I'm not gonna lie, doesn't look very different than many other platforming indie games. Until you get into the gory parts of it and how you can use this to your advantage. And the publisher putting John to the task of telling him, hey, it's a little bit too violent, actually made him go back and look at the game and make it not just more violent, but using violence as a means of transportation. And I gotta be honest, you love to see it. Hit that subscribe, give me a like, and check out smashjt.com for my full article breaking down this interesting situation. So it all started back when developer Lost Relic Games had a communication with a certain unnamed publisher. And in that communication was an email from Michael. And he said, John, after consultation with the team, we'd like to request a dial down of the game's violence, as we feel the game could appeal to a wider audience. Let me know your thoughts. Regards, Michael. I mean, on the surface, fair enough. I get it. Publishers these days, especially with indie games, don't want to take any chances, especially in the landscape of the video game industry that we find ourselves right now, where it's anything but stable. They want as close to a sure thing if they're going to be backing it financially and getting this game published out there for the masses. So from that perspective, I totally get it. But in doing so, you're messing with the artistic angle of the developer, creating a game in an image that they've always dreamed of. And messing with that is kind of like telling an artist how to paint a picture so that it's not so offensive to the people that walk by and look at it. And if the artist painting the picture is really talented, it shouldn't matter what people think about it, because at the end of the day, I, like many other people, can look at video games as art, especially a title like this one. John's response was nothing short of genius. Instead of quietly making some suggested changes or outright dismissing the feedback and being angry, he took to YouTube in a video that I could only describe as a masterclass in reverse psychology, a very tongue-in-cheek compromise that in reality did the complete opposite of what the publisher had requested, and in reality ramped up the violence to a new, almost comical level. Like in this part right here, he explains how he used to just kill the enemies and you move on, but because he wanted to go so over the top with it, because he was so pissed off at this email trying to tone down the violence, creates an execution move where you can behead your opponent and then kick their head down the road and use that to solve puzzles by pushing buttons and levers down. I mean, come on, that's pretty awesome. He also introduced the shield named the Razor Fang that promises even more bloodshed. This counter-offer was anything but subtle. The video was filled with dark humor, exaggerated violence, and a clear message. Would not be compromising on its core identity. Now, think about this for a second. The game is literally called Blood and Mead. I don't know what this publisher had hoped for or thought of differently coming out of a game titled Blood and Mead, but clearly the developer was not having any of it, and instead he went the opposite direction. John sent a clear message back to not just the publisher, but the entire community, that he would not be compromising on the game's core identity.
Well, Michael, hello. Now I have thought about your request, and it did strike me as a little bit odd because the game is of course called Blood and Mead, and the combat gore has become a bit of a staple signature hook of the game.
Now, I gotta gotta be honest, I love this stuff, especially when it comes to the indie developers, because they don't have to worry about the pressures of appealing to the masses. They can create the specific idea of a game that they want to and put it out to whoever is going to hear it. And by doing this, the way that he did, the game is able to stick to its guns, pun intended, as to being as violent as possible. And by him putting this video out there on YouTube, it sends a message loud and clear to all gamers that this game will not be compromising on its set mission.
But with that said, I do agree that the dial on this violence could be adjusted ever so slightly. So I've made some changes that I'd like to propose to you.
And at this point, as of recording, it's in the 90,000 view area, quickly approaching 100,000 views. In just 10 days of releasing the video. And in a way, it's not just giving the middle finger to a publisher telling them to tone down the violence, but it's also a rallying cry for gamers preferring mature, violent content, not compromising into modern society's PC culture of, oh, can't have it too violent or else some school moms might be upset that someone got blood on them. It's like, no, this is the age of gamers and people can pick whatever game they want to play. There's hundreds of thousands of games out there by now. So we're at an exciting point where we can have many different games out there and be able to choose what we want to play if the game is good enough, if it's fun enough, if it's entertaining enough. Shouldn't have some publisher being able to say, oh yeah, it's fun and it's everything the developer wanted, but we want to appeal to more people, so yeah, don't do that game the way you're doing it. Hell no. And YouTube in this era is allowing people to be able to get the message out there without it being silenced. Well, unless they start demonetizing stuff and advertisers start pulling out, and well, it's a whole nother thing, but hopefully we're past that for now. What looked to be a simple developer update video turned into a genius marketing campaign. It's a game I never would have cared about or hell, even heard about if this didn't happen. And right there is the key. And someone like me, as I'm sure many of you out there, want to support this kind of stuff. Indie developers driving through, making their game their passion and not falling for compromises for PC culture. And in this case, I can't argue with this guy, and to be honest, the first thing I did was I headed over to the Steam page and I wishlisted the game. And as of right now, there's no set price for it, obviously no different publisher for it, and no release date for it, but I put it on my wish list, and the more people that can do that, that's more firepower, pun intended, for the developer to be able to go to other publishers and say, look at all the people talking about my game. Look at everyone who's interested in buying it. Don't you want to publish this game and make some of that money? So in a way, in reverse psychology, genius marketing angle that Lost Relic Games took with this is exactly what people are asking for. And this is something I can definitely get behind. The indie scene these days is completely flooded with nameless game after nameless game, and many of them blending in, looking exactly the same as others, and people sometimes just end up throwing their hands up saying, why should I care about this one? What makes this one special? What's different about this? And while obviously gameplay is ultimately the most important part of the game, knowing about the game is more important than if the game is even fun. So the first part, the most important part, has been done by making this video. Nearly 100,000 people have already seen this on YouTube, and it's only 10 days into the video being published. I could only imagine how much more attention this is going to garner as time goes on. So yeah, more indie developers should be doing stuff like this. Take to the platform. Tell people your message. Do it tongue-in-cheek. You don't want to F over the publishers. You don't want to name them by name. You don't want to get a bad mark in the gaming community. But if you can get your message out there, not putting the publisher down, he didn't name who it was. He blacked out the people of who that was. He said, this is my desire. This is my passion. This is my ultimate goal for the game. And hopefully you guys out there can get behind it. And if the views are anything to go by, it's off to a great start. Anyways, if you want more information on the game or links to wishlist this thing on Steam or find out more about it, all the information, all the references will be in the article. I will link in the description below. Let me know what you guys think about Blood and Mead, and if this is a game you might be interested in picking up. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, you stay smashing.
Smash, change,